Hello, Brandon. It's Brandon Huffines and the co-owner and founder of Squatch Juice,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and the local known resident for the interest in Bigfoot.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's get right into it and tell us how you became interested in Bigfoot.
Oh man, it's been something that I've been fascinated with my whole entire life. I can remember when I was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5, and I went down to Tennessee to go visit my grandpa. And my grandpa knew that I loved lifted pickups. You saw my pickup when it let me in here.
Very nice truck.
Yeah, thanks. And this one was quite, particular to me. It was a Ford. Not typically a Ford guy, but this one was a Ford pickup, and it was lifted, right? Big old tires on it. Just a little like Tonka toy, if you will, and had Bigfoot on the side. And ever since then, I've just been fascinated.
All right, and then what led you move from there to Idaho at some point?
Well, no, so I never lived back east. My grandpa lived over in Tennessee and West Virginia. Have a lot of family back there, but I was born in Idaho Falls. But then from Idaho Falls, I moved 34, 35 times out of my 42 years of life. So a lot of places.
And you've had 2 sightings of Bigfoot, is that correct?
One that was, you could say, a Class A, if you will. That one I had to get confirmed by Dr. Jeff Meldrum before he passed. I wanted to make sure that my story was legit. And then another one is a photo of a hand, a black furry hand, right like close up to my trail camera, which was about 8.5 feet high off the ground.
Excellent. And can you explain to us what a Class A certification is?
So a Class A is basically when you actually get to see, it's like you are witnessing or you're seeing this thing like me and you are talking. So a body, eyes, everything like that. And we actually have it on a little bit on camera. If you can actually turn the lights off and you can see the 2 red beady eyes looking at us as we were packing out my cow elk.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and continue explaining that story, where you saw it and the whole experience you had?
Sure. So this was last year, and this was the end of September. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 years ago. Let's go back 2 years ago. So this is when we had the Wapiti fire and the Nelly fire going. And where I was hunting, I was directly snap back dab in the middle. So they had on each side of us a mile where the fire was going to be like coming. And so they either said, okay, if it comes within that mile, we're going to have to like shut it down, evacuate you, and get out. It was so bad that we had to wear respirators. And I couldn't see from me to you. And like me and you were like 5 feet apart right now. So we were like really relying on, it was calling, going back and forth, hearing for them. And we knew that they were going to be heading towards water. And so we saw where the circulation was and like all of the air that was going to be pushing the smoke out and where the elk would be. Now, because it was just elk, it's not just elk. It was a lot of other animals because they knew where to go for safety, right? Safe haven.
Sure.
So it was about 6 o'clock. And I found a really nice bedded area where they were down by this creek, and I snuck in on them with soft cow calling, and I was able to harvest one of the biggest cow elk I've ever been able to harvest in my whole entire life. And I've been able to harvest an elk every year for the last 12 years. Very blessed, very grateful for that. And at 6 o'clock, I knew that we had work cut out for us because we had another probably 3 to 4 miles straight up a mountain to get out of that hole. So I called my friend and I said, hey, I just got a cow and we needed, debone her to make it a little bit easier of the pack out. So we didn't get out of there until about like 12:30. That's how long it took us to, debone her and get her packed up and everything. So at this time it was dark. The wind started to shift. And so it was starting to blow northeast, which then took the smoke out. And so that was every day. About that time, blew the smoke out, and then about 7, 8 o'clock, the wind would come back down and then fill the valley up with smoke. Now, we were way back there. We were so far back that we had to take our side-by-sides, and these roads were closed, if you will, to like other vehicles because of washouts and other things like that. So if you didn't have a side-by-side, it was either a horseback or a foot or a four-wheeler. And so we were way back there, about an hour and a half back, and it was me, a buddy of mine, Corey Blackner, and his dad, Roger Blackner, and then another guy, Kevin Moran, who is a veteran, and he came out to help. And so there's 4 of us. Kevin was a pack animal. Like he just was a billy goat, if you will. And he could just put 100 pounds on his back and just go. So I didn't really worry about him, but Corey and his dad particularly, 63, 64.
Sure.
He was having a hard time. We're like, hey, you don't need to pack anything out. We can just do it. And he goes, oh, no, I'm going to do this. And so we gave him 30 pounds of meat, and he tried getting out there. He did. He did really well. But we were about halfway, and we got up onto this ridge. And all of a sudden, I'm kind of like playing middleman. I'm making sure that, Kevin's going in the right direction, and then I'm making sure that Corey and his dad are following in the right direction so no one gets separated. And I'm talking to Corey. I'm like, hey, why don't you guys go around the ridge, because where we're going to be going now, there's going to be a lot of deadfall, and it's going to be really hard for your dad to get over. So they went around the ridge, and we went up and over on top. And as I started walking up, all of a sudden I heard Kevin smacking his like walking sticks. And now, mind you, it's 12:30, dark, no moon, no light. And I'm like, what is it? And he goes, I think there's a bear up there. I can see like red beady eyes. And right away, I was just like, bears don't have red beady eyes. Like neither do wolf. Did you see what the face looked like? And, how big is this thing? And he goes, I don't know. We're facing downhill or we're facing uphill. I don't know if it's 8 feet tall. I don't know if it's like 4 feet tall. I don't know. So,
and there's no landmarks, right? Because it's completely dark.
Completely dark. There's really no landmarks, right? But then I took my headlamp and I flashed it up there. It was about 100, 150 yards up. And I noticed that there was this little tiny tree, pine tree, that was right next to where it was standing. And I could see the silhouette, and it definitely was some sort of like a tall, hairy creature, if you will. I'm like, well, maybe it's a bear, but bears don't have red beady eyes. And then as soon as I was flashing my flashlight, I saw a second pair come out from behind. So then there was 2 pairs of red beady eyes.
So how close were you at this time, do you think?
We were probably about 100, 150 yards.
Okay.
And so at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I know where that tree is. And I said, we did actually harvest, my son harvested a cow calf about 3 days earlier, right in that area. So I'm like, it's possible that there's a bear or something that's up there that's going to be eating on the carcass, right? But the whole thing behind, like in my mind, I'm like, there's nothing that I know that would have a red beady eye except for me, like a human, an owl, or some sort of like an ape creature thing. And so as we started walking up, made no noise. It just sat there and watched us. And I said, I have it on video. I'm like, we were seeing these red beady eyes. And so if you turn the lights off and you can like see where my flashlight is, you can barely see the red beady eyes because it's so far back in there. And we're just using our phones.
To clarify, you and who was with you?
So I had Kevin, Corey, and his dad.
But you sent 2 over the ridge top, right? So were all 4 of you together then, or had you already separated?
So we've separated. So there's 2 of us. It was me and Kevin that were walking up the hard part of the ridge, and then I sent Corey and his dad around the ridge.
Around the ridge.
It's like a little bit of a knoll, if you will, to kind of get away from the deadfall, to stay kind of in the sagebrush.
Okay.
And now where we were, just to kind of let you guys know, we were up in the sawtooth, way, way back in there. Just nasty, right?
Yes.
Anyways, and so we started walking. I'm like, they're not making any noise. They're not showing any aggression. Super quiet. I'm like, well, we have to go that way. Like there's no way around it. So we had our guns on us just in case, just for a predator or anything like that. So we just started walking up, and Kevin just, marched on. And all of a sudden we can hear, as we walked up to that spot, we heard Corey's dad yell, "Did you guys go pee down here?" And we're like, we weren't even down there. And he goes, "This is like one of the biggest puddles of urine I've seen, and it stinks so bad."
Really?
And then as he said that, I kind of looked left, and I'm like, what is going on? As I looked left, I saw the red beady eyes on the other ridge that went down and up, and that's where they was right down there.
So did you still have the beady eyes in front of you and more to the left, or they had moved from there?
They moved. And it was so dry, and like there was no rainfall, right? So there was no way to see if there was any track or anything like that. Hindsight, so I told this story to Dr. Jeff Meldrum, right? Former professor down at ISU. who was also like on Finding Bigfoot. He studied these things. At the very beginning of his career, didn't believe in these bipedal creatures, but now he does, or did.
And a lot of people still don't,
And
right?
a lot of
So
people
that's why
still
we're
don't.
here.
Yeah, and that's why. Yeah, exactly. So, and then I've grown to have a lot of good friends in the Bigfoot world, like RPG, Ryan Paul Gillespie, right, Dr. Murray Mayor. So all these people are my really good friends now, and I've actually told them the story, and they're like, "Yeah, we would concur with Meldrum. Like, that is a sighting. Like you saw something." And so Meldrum, when he was asking me questions, to confirm, he would say, "Now, did you see the tree?" I said, "Yeah, I did see the tree." He goes, "How big was the tree?" And I said, "Maybe 6 feet tall." "Was it a pine tree?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, those limbs aren't going to be big enough for an owl to perch on, especially two, and then have one come out from behind." And he goes, "And there was nobody else up there but you guys." I said, "There was nobody up there because we were the only ones that were stupid enough to go up there and hunt with two raging fires on either side of us."
Sure.
And couldn't see and breathe. And he goes, "There's only one answer that I can give you." And that's what he said. He goes, "You saw two Bigfoot. Like, that's what you had. You had a Class A sighting," is what he said.
So just a couple questions, obviously, for those that are skeptical. When you got up to the tree, right?
Yeah.
The pine tree that you saw,
Yeah.
there was no sign or
No.
nothing around the tree there.
Nothing.
And then down at the urine where it smelled
Yep.
so badly, of course, at the time you're not thinking to
No.
take any sort of sample. I don't think anybody would be thinking that at the time, correct?
I wasn't. And in like hindsight, like I was saying, it's like when I told this story to like RPG, he just was like, "What? Like, you didn't go back and get any like evidence?" And I'm like, "Dude, I was so tired. It was 12:30. I had 108 like pounds on my back. I was trying to get out of there." And I was like, "Yeah, I should have gone back down the mountain to maybe collect something, but I just didn't think about it."
And of course, not being out there in that situation, I come from a law enforcement background, so that's where my mind went, right? Is did you collect any evidence? But it's certainly understandable if you're been packing out meat all day, right?
Exactly. Tired, thirsty, and just want to get home.
Yes.
We had an hour and a half drive back to the cabin after we got out. And it was 12:30, 1 o'clock. I'm like, "I'm not going to get home until like 2:30. Let's just get out of here."
Sure. So let's talk about the silhouette you saw a little bit. Was it standing on 2 feet or was it down on all fours?
So it was on 2 feet. And a bear, when you look at it when it stands up on 2 feet, it's going to look kind of the same. It was dark, right? So the silhouette was there. Now, the thing that got my attention were two things: was the red beady eyes, and then the second pair of red beady eyes that came out from behind, kind of like peeking around, like, "Hello, I can see you."
Yes.
Why would two bear be standing in line, and then the bear would then walk sideways to kind of like peek around and say hi? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. Like, a bear doesn't do that, right? A bear is going to get down on all fours and then walk around. So,
And during the silhouette, were you able to see any like human arm movements? Clearly, a bear typically doesn't do the arm movements like we do, right?
Yeah.
Or act the way that we do.
no, that was the thing. I didn't like see anything that was like definitive of like a human arm or anything like that. It just was like you could just see a silhouette body, right? And then the two beady eyes.
Okay. And then after that, you came out, you had it certified. And then you've talked about you have a picture of a hand as well.
So this was actually, the hand, we have a picture. And this is another one that where like RPG was like, "Where's this picture? Like, why don't you have it?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like, I don't go around telling everybody this, right? Like for reasons, but I mean, it happened. And there's 4 of us that actually saw it. And I wanted to confirm my story before I told anybody. So then I feel comfortable saying it. But it was me and my brother, and we were hunting over on the eastern Idaho side over by Jackson Hole. That's where we grew up, was like Bedford, Wyoming. And so there's a book that has, her name was Becky. I can't remember her last name right now, but she wrote a book of 87 different stories of people who had Bigfoot sightings in Idaho. One gentleman actually served in the military and then retired and found refuge by Lake Palisades and lives like completely off grid. And he swears that there's a family of Bigfoot that live up there, right?
Okay.
So it's a cool story. We have the books. She gave them to us before she passed. And we were up there hunting. I wasn't even thinking like, "Oh, this is where this guy is," right? Like, Wasn't even like putting two and two together. So we got up on top of this mountain, and this story, okay, let me set the preference. So we were down in the bottom of the creek, and then we had to ride our horses about 14, 15 miles back in. In this territory, if you know, like the Teton, Wyoming area, it is steep. And so the only way to get really back in there is by horse. So we rode our horses back in. We rode up on top of this mountain where you can actually overlook Star Valley, and then you can actually see the Tetons. So nostalgic and just very beautiful, right? Just very awe.
Not many people back there.
No, hardly. I mean, we saw one guy that was walking up the trail that was like 4 miles back, but like that's as far as he went. But nobody else was. Now, when we got up on top, we found this really pretty grove of aspens, and they were turning yellow. It was fall, and I said, well, there's a really well-worked trail that goes right between the aspens. And I said, let's just put the horses here, and let's kind of see where this goes, if it's going to open up to like a meadow, if there's going to be something on the other side of this knoll. Maybe they're up here, rutting. And so we put the horses up on the tree. We tied them up, got our packs out. We camped. We packed our packs ready to camp, like bivvy in. And so we were going to spend the night on the mountain. And said, okay, we'll just tie the horses up here and leave them here for the night. They're fine. As we walked out of the grove of trees, we saw this very well put together hunting camp. I mean, you see it all, right? You got the tents, sleeping bags, all of the gear that you need for cooking. Everything is there except for the people. No one's there. I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird. I said, maybe they're out hunting. I was like, yeah, maybe they're out hunting. So I said, well, let's go out and see what we can do, right? If we run into them, then we run into them. Obviously, this is a well-established camp. Someone's probably paid 10, 15, 20 grand to come up here and hunt some of these big bulls. So if we run into them, we'll just say, hey, sorry, it's public land, didn't know, back out. Well, we went out hunting, didn't run into anybody, but we did run into a massive bull. And this bull would not come out of the buck brush for nothing. I mean, you could just run it in circles. We would try to go one way, he'd go the other. And we'd go that way, then he'd go back around the other. And he just was super, super smart. And I said, there's no way we're going to get him out tonight. We're going to have to sneak in on him in the morning. So I was like, hey, let's go back to camp. Let's go see if these guys are hunting this bull. This is like it's got to be a 350, close 400 class bull, just massive. And I was like, if he's paying $10,000 to hunt this, we just have to be hunter's etiquette and get out. He goes, yeah, I agree. So we get back to camp. It's about 11:30, 11:45. Nobody there.
Camp. No one's there at this time. And how far is your camp from this camp?
14, 15 miles.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're way back. And they're on top of the mountain, and we were camping down at the bottom by the river there. So I was like, well, I mean, no one's coming back. We might as well, they have everything out. They have their cots. They have their sleeping bags. We don't need to unpack anything. Let's just sleep in their stuff. And then we'll just put everything away and, get on our way and sneak down on those elk about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And they're going to be bugling all night. It was a full moon. It was cooler. So we knew they were going to be rutting. I'm like, they're probably 500-600 yards right down the mountain. So we're getting ready to go to bed. It's 12:30. And sure enough, they start, the bulls are bugling, the cows are chirping, and they're just going crazy. We knew exactly what they were going to do. I'm like, perfect. We know where they're at. We'll just walk in. We'll get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, get down there and go kill us a nice big bull.
Sounds like a good day.
Yeah, it was an amazing day. Now, as we were sitting there getting ready to go to bed, we heard, me and my brother, this god-awful roar, if you will. Now, if you want to kind of compare it to what it would sound like, if you ever seen the Great Outdoors when the bear just screams, right?
Yes.
So
how about an Aztec whistle?
What's that?
Different?
No,
okay.
Different. Yeah. So, I mean, if you could take that bear and then amplify it by 10, that's how loud this thing was. And I've heard all the animals. I've heard wolf. I've heard bear. I've heard bobcat, mountain lion. I've never heard anything like this. Now, and the thing was, it was so creepy and eerie that as soon as it let out that roar, the elk shut up, the birds shut up, even the squirrels. Nothing was making a noise. Nothing.
You guys either?
No. I grabbed my gun and put it on my pillow. I'm like, whatever that was, I don't know what it was. but I'll just sleep with my gun tonight. I'm going to feel a little bit better.
Yeah, you'd been in the woods a lot, have a lot of experience in the woods, and it was something that you weren't accustomed to hearing.
That's exactly right. So I've been hunting for my whole entire life. Like I'm 42, started when I was 9. Every year I'm out in the woods. And we go back a ways. So I've seen 3 bear out of those years of hunting. That's it. In the wild, they're very scarce.
Yes.
But anyway, so I said, well, whatever that was, it literally scared everything out, including the elk. I'm like, well, that just kind of ruined our hunting plan. So we woke up at 4:30. I was like, let's just go check and see. Sure enough, they were gone. I said, well, let's go back and get the horses. And let's go check that shell camera, what's on the other side of the mountain that we put. And when I had to lift my brother up, it was about 8.5 feet tall, is where the camera was. And so it was over a huge wallow, and got a lot of cool pictures of elk in there just wallowing away and, getting cool. But we started going, so we got there, and as we strolled up onto the wallow on the horseback, we started to see that the camera was moved. And it was over to the left and then pointing down to the trail. And we're like, that's weird. Like,
either an animal brushed it or it fell off the tree, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was 8.5 feet high. So
pretty difficult to do,
right? If you're an animal that's going to brush up against it. The other thing, too, was it wasn't like it was untied or like the wind moved it. It was like something grabbed it, shifted it, and then pointed it down. It was really weird, right? And there was no bear claw on the tree. There was nothing. So typically when a bear will climb a tree, you can actually see its claws as it goes up. There's nothing. And we're like, this is really weird. I said, well, grab the card, right? The SIM card, or not the SIM card, the SD card. Let's take it back to camp, and let's just look at the footage, and let's see what it looks like. So we got back there, and our whole entire families are there, right? And then we had some friends that, because we grew up in Bedford, that's kind of where we had our passion and grew up hunting, and that's where it all started. So they came over, and we were all hanging out in the campers, and we were just clicking through the pictures. Oh, that's a really nice bull. Oh, that's a really nice bull. Oh my gosh, that's a fat cow. And I was able to harvest a cow that next day off of that, and it was a very healthy cow. Anyways, and so all of a sudden, my brother, he kind of went like, what is that? He kind of just got this weird bewilderment look on his face. I'm like, what? He goes, what is that? And so I looked at it, and then it was basically kind of like right here, about 6-8 inches away from your face to the camera lens. And you can see 5 fingers, hairy hand, palm going right to the camera. And then the next shot is when the camera was faced over to the left and pointing down to the trail.
And do you have those pictures somewhere? Have you posted those online or someplace people can go?
No. And that's what I said. Like RPG was like, what are you doing, man? Like that is like that right there. You need to have that. I don't know where it is. I asked my brother where it was, and he goes, it was on the hard drive of the computer that crashed a long time ago. And he goes, I don't think I have it anymore, but we did have it, and we had 15, 20 people see it.
No, this happened after.
This was way before. This was back in like 07, 08.
Okay, so this is before your second encounter, so to speak.
Yep.
The live one where you were present, and then the photograph. So
yep.
I'm guessing you just dismissed it at the time as you're not really sure what it is. And
well, I mean, here's the thing: is like I'm a huge believer in Bigfoot just because of the to me biblical, right? So you look at Genesis 4, right? It talks about how Cain was cursed, and he was cursed to be a hairy beast, him and his descendants to live on earth for their entire lives until the second coming. And he goes and says, well, that's not fair, Lord, because now you're going to curse me into an animal that's going to be desired to be hunted and killed, and you're casting me out of your presence forever. And he goes, you are right. You will be cast out of my presence forever, but I will make it so where you can't be hunted or killed. So I believe that it's Cain and his descendants. The forest is so vast. The forest is so thick that Idaho is the second largest state compared to Alaska first that has uncharted territory that we have not even seen yet, that man hasn't even stepped foot in. So who's to say there's nothing out there? Who's to say like we haven't discovered anything yet? Point in fact, Dr. Maria Mayor, she discovered a new animal in the rainforest just a few years ago. So is it possible? Absolutely. And we're still finding things to this day completely new in the sea.
Yeah, new animals are found all the time, or new species of an animal. In regards to Bigfoot, we've had hunters in Idaho for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to those that would be their answer to you, right? Like, I've hunted as long as you have. I've had the experience you have. I've been in the roughest terrain just like you have, but I haven't seen anything like this.
Well, there's a couple of things, right? So I do believe that there are other hunters out there that have seen things and they have things captured, but they don't want to say anything. And
Yeah,
the
that's a
reason,
very good point.
yeah, and they don't want to be judged, right? They don't want to be looked at like, oh, you're a crazy guy. So they keep it to themselves.
I think it's becoming more common enough, though. Certainly, I don't know if have you felt that before, where people think you're a crazy guy?
I don't know about crazy, but definitely like they don't take me seriously, right? There's no credibility. So I just kind of like, it's irrelevant. Why even talk about it?
Yeah, and I think when I was a child, it was less rare to talk about and was kind of unique to talk about. And of course, as we've progressed, more and more people are talking about it. And from your picture then, did you submit that as well? Or there was no picture to submit back in 2008 or no process like the Class A process that there is now?
Well, I didn't know of the, is it BRFO is what it is, Bigfoot Research Facility Organization or something like that. I didn't know that existed until we did the Squatch Con over at Indian Creek. And they were there. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I wish I kind of would have known about this because we could have actually said, oh, put a pin there. This is what we had. But no, we did not submit anything. Like I didn't say anything. I wasn't in it to like, I want to get famous. You know, there's a lot of people out there that will actually fake it or like they will do it. Or they say that they seen it just to get the fame. I really just didn't like, I didn't want the fame, you know, like I didn't care.
And of course that hurts the credibility of anyone else that may have a Class A story, correct?
It depends on the person too, right? Like there's been multiple people that I've actually talked to that have had a Class A that they have credibility. Like they're not going to come out and just say it. These are people that have been looking their entire lives and finally found something or saw something, and then they haven't been able to repeat it, right? Just so to answer that question too is like other hunters, like I've been doing this for years. It goes right back to my other point is like, okay, great. You've been doing this for years. So have I. Let me ask you, how many bear have you seen?
Sure.
None, right?
Just a couple over my career.
Just a couple over your career, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen a dead bear carcass anywhere?
Not that I remember.
So they die. We know they die, you know, not just from us, but from natural causes. So where do those bones go? There's a lot of like, well, we know that wolverines are out there. We have wolverine here, but how scarce is it? I've seen one wolverine out of my years of hunting in Idaho.
And see, and I think I've seen one. Clearly, it wasn't as big as a Bigfoot stature. Just a quick glimpse of it, and we were trying to figure out what it was because it's you don't see it very often, and that's the only thing that we could come up with was it was probably a wolverine.
Yep. And so we saw the wolverine in the same area we saw the Bigfoot. Saw a lot of animal because all the smoke was drawing everything into that little pocket because it was clear. It was like the only sanctuary where the animals could go where there was no smoke.
Yes.
There was a lot in there, a lot of animals.
And then based on some research, it looks like Bonner County is our number one county in the state with the most Bigfoot sightings.
Up north, yes. Yep. So that is like the hot spot for Bigfoot is Bonner, like Bonner County, by like Kellogg and whatnot. So there's been multiple sightings of a Bigfoot that's up there. There's a group of people that actually go up every year, and they do like a whole hunt and search every year.
Now, do you happen to know the ratio between a Class A, so I would call that a certified sighting, and how many people report a sighting?
So yeah,
like what's the standard? Maybe that might help people understand.
Well, it's very rare that you get a Class A. So Class A is like basically seeing something physically, like I'm talking to you, and we're able to see like an app, a silhouette or something like that. You can see the eyes, like you can actually see what it is. So a Class B is going to be like, I found a footprint, I found some hair, a broken twig, or whatever it is, right? And then the C is like the voice, or like the roar, or something like that, right? So like that's going to be the definitive description of what those Class A, Class B, and Class C are.
Now, just out of curiosity, going back, did you ever see the other hunters from the camp that was abandoned?
Never.
When you went up there?
Never saw them.
So they may not just have been in there that weekend or that week.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question.
We certainly hope they're missing, right?
Well, yeah,
So-
I don't think they're missing. I think that that would have been like plastered everywhere in Star Valley, like missing hunters.
Sure.
But yeah, who's to say they just weren't in there for that weekend? But the thing was weird is if they weren't in there for that weekend, why have everything laid out? Like everything would be put in bags. All your pots and pans wouldn't be like out on the kitchen table, like out on, it was a kitchen table. Like they had a legit kitchen table right by this little creek that had a little spout coming out for the what's it called? Not the creek, but the spring. So it looked like people were there. Like it didn't look like it was packed up.
Yes, and so that interest brings you to Squatch juice?
More or less.
Okay, so tell us how you transitioned to there.
So Squatch juice, right? So Squatch juice, the reason why I created Squatch juice is because there was a huge lack and there was a huge disconnect of actually having something that was really healthy for you that you could drink that was actually beneficial for not only just your body, but for your mind. And the reason why I went down this path is because almost 7 years ago now, my dad took his life. He lived out in Middleton, and I was literally 2 minutes just too late. And I got the call. My stepmom said, "Hey, your dad's got a gun and he's going to kill himself." And I had my kids with me at the time. They were like 10 and 8. I went home, dropped them off, called my wife at the time, and I said, "Hey, you've got to get home. I can't explain. Just get home. Kids are fine, but I got to go." It took me 15 minutes to get from Caldwell to Middleton at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
Well, thank you. I got there, started CPR, and paramedics showed up. They put the machine on him. I'll never get that image out of my head. And we were there for 45 minutes and just nothing. And I said, "Let's call it, guys. He's gone. I lost my dad. I lost my best friend. I lost my hero that day. My entire life shifted that day. I went into like a little bit of a depression, if you will. A few months later, I lost my job, and I was the breadwinner, making really good money, and bought a brand new truck, lost that. Bought my kids brand new dirt bikes, lost those. 2019 to 2023, I lost 5 more friends to suicide. And that's when I decided, what am I doing? I know my dad would be super upset with me, staying in the state of mind of poor me, poor me. Why did this happen to me? Instead of saying, why did this happen for me? Because I know that I'm not the only one that has ever gone through this. And there's got to be somebody that can go out there and say, it's okay. Like, we can make a difference.
It's quite tragic, though.
Very tragic. Thank you. But I think that we all come across that point where there's something tragic that happens in our lives. And we can either say, I'm going to go down this path of poor me, or I'm going to go down this path of like, let me help other people.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's when I decided that I wanted something to be clean that we drink that actually helps with our mental health. I started doing a lot of research. Was never into this field. I was a financial planner and banking and all that stuff. Was never in the nutrition field. So I started doing a lot of research, started looking at kind of like what's in our drinks, our energy drinks, our hydration drinks. And a lot of it is just very unhealthy stuff that causes, like if you look at Red 40, look at Blue 5, Blue 8, all of that has been scientifically linked to kids like misbehaving, behavior change. There has been links to cancer in some of it. There has been links to a mental breakdown if you drink too much over time. And so I was like, is there anything out there that doesn't have this? There's not. So then that's when I reached out to a friend of mine and I said, this is what I want to do. This is kind of a dream that I have, because if we can create a drink that everybody can drink, even diabetics and kids and everybody, like I just said, we can make a difference and we can actually start helping people mentally and physically with the vitamins that come into play. So then we started formulating it. We got together with 3 nutritionists, 4 doctors, one of them who are actually on my board now. And we did a deep dive on the ingredients and what we want to use. And every one of my ingredients is 97% are pure. It's all natural. It's all real. There's no synthetics. There are no dyes. It's real fruit. And then we have the 2 best nootropics that you can be drinking, your theanine and L-tyrosine. Theanine helps you stay like super focused. Like Joe Rogan speaks so highly about it, right? He goes, I don't do a podcast without taking my theanine, right? Because it works. And then L-tyrosine helps you like adapt to stressful situations, stay a little bit more positive, and just helps you just be a happier person overall. And then this one that I gave you is our new one, the Enhanced Focus. It doesn't have any caffeine in it, but
hold it up for just a second. So yeah, it comes in a nice little package. And how many's in here?
So you get 30 in a pouch, so 30 sticks. So it's a month. It's a month supply, 30 servings.
Okay.
But that one's got lion's mane, and lion's mane is a mushroom that has been scientifically proven to show regrowth of brain cells, repair of the brain that's ever been damaged by TBI or concussions. So when you have that, right, and you start like looking at the brain, it really functions everything, right? Like you can't move your hands. Your heart is being told how to pump, and all of these things work from your brain. And so when you get that right, then everything else will fall into place. And so that was my whole mission, is to change the industry, to change the world, to make people healthier. And we're seeing so many amazing reviews coming from our customers who are taking this. No more migraines. People who've been suffering from migraines don't have migraines. We have people who are like, I can never concentrate. I have to take Ritalin. I don't have to take Ritalin anymore. I just have to drink this. I don't have to take all my vitamin daily intake anymore. I can just drink this. Anti-anxiety medication. I don't need to take that. I just take this. So we're seeing so many like people reaching out, just so grateful because it really is changing their life. We have a guy right now, he's on a mission and he goes, I'm only using Squatch juice as my pre-workout, my hydration, and my focus. And I exercise 30, 40 minutes a day, and he's lost 53 pounds.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So,
and where can people find it?
So you can find it online at squatchjuice.com. If you're in the Valley, then you can find it at the big Albertsons, or over here by Indian Creek. There's a place that has it, the Idaho Spice Company, Al's Pawn Shop, Jack's Nutrition. But then there's a whole bunch of other places that are going to be getting it here pretty soon. We're actually working with a company that we're going to be getting into like 500,000 locations here pretty soon.
Okay, that's excellent. And is there anything today that I didn't ask, or something that you'd want to share with everyone that's going to be out there watching this that maybe we didn't cover?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. So real quick, we also donate 5% off of every purchase to mental health and veterans. And why veterans, right? You look at the staggering numbers. Now, I'm going to tell you some stuff that blew me away. There's 1 million people a year that take their life. That means somebody every 40 seconds is taking their life. So however long it took us to have this podcast, that's how many people every 40 seconds took their life. And you start looking at like, who are the biggest people who are affected by this? And a lot of it's our vets. So what we want to do is really help them first, get them taken care of. Because if we can save one more, just one more, then that we're doing our job. So that's all we're like. We just want to give back, and we want to make a difference. And if you're not a believer, that's okay, because not a lot of people believed in me either, but I had to believe in myself. So
yeah, and being a veteran myself, I certainly appreciate it, and it is a crisis for sure. The suicide rate is extremely high, but not only for veterans, for several people. So what a great product, and what a great story you have as to how you brought your life to that point.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We got to do it all